and our second of 3 events. We are pleased. My name is Valerie Gordon, and I'm the president of the Caribbean Evaluators International. We are very pleased to be partnering with CLEARLAC and the Sir Arthur Lewis Institute for Social and Economic Studies, SOLISIS, University of the West Indies, as well as the Global Evaluation Institute for this. Actually, it's our 5th time doing gLocal. The only one we missed was in 2020. So this year's event is very special to the CEI, and we really do welcome CLEARLAC again as a partner in this event. They will be shepherding this particular event, and it's special to the CEI because the organization is celebrating its 10th anniversary since its founding. The CEI is a network of monitoring, evaluation, and development professionals who are focused on advancing evaluative practice in the Caribbean. So our strategic priorities are increasing professional development, knowledge sharing and networking, advancing the visibility and involvement of the CEI in monitoring, evaluation, and learning globally, and advocating for quality monitoring, evaluation, and learning practice in the region. This is why gLocal is of such pivotal importance to us. My duty here today is really just to introduce our distinguished moderator. It's not Martha. Martha had to be away because of an emergency. However, we welcome Christian here. So Christian Crespo is the executive director of CLEARLAC, which stands for the Center for Learning on Evaluation and Results for Latin America and the Caribbean. He holds a PhD degree in social policy at this London School of Economics, Masters of Public Policy from the University of California, and an undergrad degree in industrial engineering from the Pontificia Universidad Católica de Chile. He's so young to have all these things behind his name, but we'll accept it. He has experience in applied research, policy, program design, and evaluation for governmental agencies at central and local levels, universities, and non-GOs. In his previous work, he developed monitoring systems, implemented quasi-experimental designs, and assessed targeting instruments using administrative data sets. He has published evaluation-related papers in peer-reviewed journals. He has also served as the head of research department at the University of Social Development and for public policy evaluation, for the Public Policy Evaluation Department at the Undersecretary of Crime Prevention. We welcome Christian, and I hand over the proceedings to him. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Valerie. We are delighted to be here, to be partnered with the CEI in this event and in this week. It's our pleasure to be hosting our event. So good morning, good afternoon, everyone, depending where in the region are you joining us. Welcome to our session where we will discuss the role of monitoring and evaluation and learning in non-governmental organizations in Latin America and the Caribbean. And this is really a topic that either for me and Valerie, we think it's of uttermost strategic importance, right? Because monitoring, evaluation, and learning is relevant and key, not only in the public sector, but also in other different spaces, right? I will be moderating the event today. In this session, we will examine the male journey of NGOs in Latin America and the Caribbean, and we will have amazing, really good speakers that will tell us how this journey has been through to them and their organizations. So we will trace the development, implementation, and use of monitoring, evaluation, and learning in NGOs, both in South America and in the Caribbean over the last decade. So let me give the floor just for a very, very quick introduction, name, country, organization, where they come from, to our illustrious panelists. So I will start with Silvana. Can you have a very, very brief, say hi to the audience and a very brief introduction from your side?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Christian, for the introductions. I'm Silvana. Well, I work at Luxich Foundation, Fundación Luxich in Chile, and I'm a sociologist. And well, I'm very, very pleased to be here as a coordinator of evaluation of Fundación Luxich.
Thank you, Silvana. Now I give the floor to Carla.
Oh, sorry. Hi, everyone. I'm really glad to be here. I'm Carla. I am the Senior Male Coordinator at the Pan American Development Foundation, and I work based in Lima, Peru.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Carla. I give the floor now to Nadine.
Thank you, Christian. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I'm Nadine Chambers Goss, the Executive Director for Rise Life Management Services, which is an NGO based in Jamaica. I'm really just looking forward to just sharing our experience with Mel with you today.
Thank you very much for being with us, Nadine. And finally, I give the floor to Georgia.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Georgia Crawford Williams, and I am a consultant sociologist and capacity building expert here in Jamaica. I am most excited to be here and to speak about the future of Mel. Looking forward.
For those who are recently joining us, welcome everyone to this session, both in the south cone of the continent, in the Caribbean. I remind you all that this session will be recorded and made available on the Universidad Católica de Chile YouTube channel. And at the end of the session, we will also take a photo for social media. So without further ado, I leave you with our first presentation, which is it's going to be made by Silvana. Silvana, again, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I'll share my screen and you can tell me if you're seeing my presentation and if it is in presentation mode. Are you seeing in presentation mode? Okay. I take that as a yes. So, well, I already introduced myself, but I'm Silvana Lorenzini, Coordinator of Evaluation at Fundación Luxich. I want to begin by thanking you for the invitation to our hosts, ClearLac and CEI. It is an honor to be in this panel and certainly a great opportunity to share with other experts and practitioners from other parts of the continent and from the Caribbean as well. I'm sure we will engage in a very interesting discussion. So today I will present Luxich Foundation's evaluation model, and in doing so, I will show a practical case. I'll be presenting one of our programs, highlighting how this program completed our entire evaluation cycle. Please, if you have any questions or comments, we will have a time designated for that at the end of the presentation. I will begin this presentation by introducing my home. The Luxich Foundation is a philanthropic family foundation that focuses on strengthening people's capacity through training to contribute to Chile's development. The foundation is committed to implementing effective evidence-based programs in each action area, which are education, entrepreneurship, sports, and emergency response, with a people-centered approach and in collaboration with other expert entities. As mentioned before, Luxich Foundation has established these 4 action areas: education, entrepreneurship, sports, and emergency response. But today I want to focus on a program within the area of entrepreneurship. This program supports entrepreneurs in 3 areas, that is financial support, mentorship, and training. Within the foundation, the evaluation area was created to ensure the quality of all the programs and initiatives of Luxich Foundation. And what I want to show you next on this slide is our evaluation model. I will speak to each of these parts of the cycle individually, but for now I'll give a summarized explanation. So if we look at the flow chart on the right side of the slide, we see on the top of it the definition of the problem. If we continue clockwise, we see then the design or redesign of the program. And once the program is implemented, we start an implementation evaluation and a results evaluation. And in some cases, either when we have a strong evidence that this kind of program works or our version of the program is mature enough, we continue with an impact evaluation. The foundation has an in-house team for evaluating its programs. This team does not implement the programs. It is a results-oriented team that has the technical capacity to guarantee high-quality evaluations. But by having an in-house team does not mean that we carry out the evaluations all by ourselves. On the contrary, we are constantly searching for experts and collaborators for every stage of the cycle, besides the program staff itself, which is highly engaged throughout the whole process. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I will introduce you to the LUCSIT Foundation's evaluation model, along with an example of a program that has completed one cycle of our model, that is the Impulso Chileno program, which means something like Chilean Impulse from the entrepreneurship area. So if we look at our cycle, we begin with the definition of the problem. These steps involves research about the type of users, possible components, and also ways of implementation with primary and secondary data, and the elaboration of a tree problem. Some of you must know them. This is a graphic way of seeing the main problem on the center, the causes on the roots, and the consequences on the branches. And after this step, we begin with the program design, where we define the beneficiary profile and also the theory of change. We also define the impact variable and some relevant indicators. And in this phase, the implementation stages begin to develop, considering a user experience approach. So how did these parts of the cycle work for Impulso Chileno? We'll see it right now, but first a little introduction of our program. Impulso Chileno is a 6-month program that supports entrepreneurs through training, mentorship, and financial support. Its first version was on 2018-2019, and currently the program is being developed in partnership with the Pontifical Catholic University of Chile and the Simón de Sirene Corporation. Although the first version of the program was implemented in 2019, it was in 2020 where a redesign was proposed. As a first step, the foundation adopted a rigorous data collection process. This process included initial research, interviews with public and private stakeholders, reviews of existing bodies of work, and also other local and global initiatives that responded to the same challenge. With this research, we were able to do a diagnosis of the first 2 versions of the program, and afterwards, the social problem was redefined in order to address specific target groups where the program could actually add more value. In the meantime, a consultancy process began, so we could count on an expert view for the redesign, which was actually a co-design of the program. So, as shown in this slide, in collaboration with this expert consultant, a new theory of change specifically tailored for micro, small, and medium enterprises was developed. The final results were established as sales increase and the improvement of labor and economic well-being. The intermediate results expected, let me activate the laser here, were an improvement in the entrepreneurial practices and the level of knowledge of the participants. And the activities proposed to achieve the results were the same core components that the original version of Impulso Chileno had, that is, financial aid, mentorship, and training. During the implementation evaluation, we looked to assert the reliability and quality of the implementation. Some of the questions that serve us as a guide, and I know that some of them might look pretty obvious or even redundant, but I guarantee you that it is totally worth it to ask them, are if we are doing what we said we would, to determine if we are following the design, how are we doing it, and also to describe the facilitators and potential barriers to the implementation. In this part of the cycle, we use qualitative research tools such as interviews, focus groups, and surveys that we apply to program staff, collaborators, and of course to beneficiaries. If we look at some of the inputs raised by the implementation evaluations of Impulso Chileno, and these are just a sample because usually we have a lot of qualitative information in this phase, we see several things. For example, one of the recommendations was to adjust the number of payments that originally was of 4 payments in a 6-month program, which could be a little intense, 2-2 payments to facilitate the process. This was very useful, for example, when the participants needed to spend on just one big item. In terms of capacity building, it was also recommended to evaluate the knowledge of beneficiaries after training and to separate the class sections based on previous knowledge. This was something that originally the program didn't plan. And one of the most valued components, that is mentorships, rose as a facilitator of the whole program, where one of the good practices was to collect the necessary information about mentors and mentees to ensure a good match between them. Our next step in our evaluation cycle is the results evaluation. And this evaluation looks to answer whether the program is effective, and it will measure if the impact variable changed or not, but it will not assess the causal effect on the program. Although we present this evaluation as a next step after the implementation evaluation, it is usually made during the same time because we apply a baseline survey right before the beginning of the program, ideally, and an end-line or follow-up survey, which are our pre-post instruments. And we also use administrative data, if available, to enrich our analysis. Some of the results that Impulso Chileno has had after the redesign of the program were pretty impressive. In terms of final results, we saw an 83% increase in the participants' monthly sales and 11 percentage points increase in the number of participants who pay their bills on time. If we look at the intermediate results, we could see 6 percentage points in participants who improved management of their personal income stream, and a 9 percentage point increase in those who improved management of their business income stream. And in terms of activity, until 2023, there were more than 670 entrepreneurs that received this financial aid, training, and mentorship. But if we count today's participants, which they haven't graduated yet, that's why I didn't count them originally, we have nearly 1,000 entrepreneurs that have participated in Impulso Chileno. Finally, we evaluate if an impact evaluation can be made. We don't carry an impact evaluation with every program because it's not possible. That's why the outline of the circle is dotted. Besides the fact that an impact evaluation is expensive, we do analyze the possibility of escalating the program before even thinking of an impact evaluation. And sometimes the features of the program itself does not allow to do a rigorous impact evaluation. However, in those programs where it is possible, we look to assert cause and effect relationships, that is, to establish what would have happened if the beneficiaries have not participated in the program. This can be asserted by estimating a counterfactual, which can be made with different methodological alternatives, such as randomized control trials, statistical matching, differences in differences, among others. And this is very important. These evaluations are carried out usually in partnership with universities or academics due to their complexity. In the case of Impulso Chileno, a partnership was made with JPAL to conduct an impact evaluation in 2023. The evaluation had an experimental design, that is, a randomized control trial was made where the top 500 enterprises participating in the competition were assigned into treatment and control groups to measure the effect on the enterprise's growth. In-person baseline and follow-up surveys were conducted, which will be enriched with administrative data. And currently, the data is being analyzed. We don't have the results yet, I'm afraid. And a partnership has been made with the Chilean Central Bank to have access to some financial information about participants. So, well, this is to wrap up. Impulso Chileno is one of our programs that has completed the entire evaluation cycle. And although we are aware that not every program can or even is expected to have an impact evaluation, we do put our efforts into having rigorous evaluations of our programs to guarantee their quality and effectiveness. Well, so that's the end. I think that I managed to keep the length on the 15 minutes. So if you have well, if anybody's interested in knowing more about Luxit Foundation, there's the website, and thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Silvana. I'm always amazed by this thread in the evaluation cycle, right? And how you take the learning part in each step of the cycle. So I kind of think that you are redefining the acronym, right? It's like learning, design, learning, monitoring, learning, evaluation, and then do it all again now. So I think it's a really interesting model to follow, not only on civil society or NGOs, but in general. I think it's really something that I think it's very interesting to show and debate about. So we will get into that more in the question parts. Now I'm giving the floor to Carla. Thank you, Silvana, again for your presentation. Carla, the floor is yours.
Okay, so I'm going to present. Okay, I think it is you're seeing the presentation mode, right? Is that correct?
Perfect. Yes.
Thank you. So, I'm Carla Lopez. I work at the Pan American Development Foundation as a MEL coordinator. And today I want to talk about a little bit our lessons and opportunities in MEL system adoption. First, a quick introduction about PADF. The Pan American Development Foundation is a nonprofit organization established by the OAS in 1962. We work across Latin America and the Caribbean to make our region stronger, more healthy, peaceful, just, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable for current and future generations. We work in three strategic goal areas. The first one is addressing the needs of vulnerable population, then promoting sustainable livelihoods, and advancing rights and justice. In Peru, our biggest program is the Integrando Horizontes. We aim to support socioeconomic integration of vulnerable Venezuelan refugees and migrants here. And we work basically in three sectors: protection, education and basic services, and economic integration. Obviously, behind this, we have our MEL system. Okay. Our MEL system is a result of a process of trial and error, and obviously we remain making continuous improvements. Let me explain its structure. Our program is implemented over 1 year. We conduct a final evaluation at the end of the year, usually a results evaluation. Throughout the implementation phase, we continuously collect data to monitor the program's progress. We tracked quantitative data to measure progress and achieve the set indicators. And additionally, we periodically collect qualitative data, is what we call qualitative monitoring. Through conducting interviews, focus group, or participatory workshops, we have the opportunity to listen to our beneficiaries in order to make adjustments or improvements in the provision of our services. As the last component of the MEL system, we have the learning sessions. These sessions aim to share the results of our monitoring processes and share our new knowledge, what we have learned in the last quarter. Finally, I should say that it is not a linear process. For the following year, we will have the insights from our latest evaluation, allowing the cycle to repeat and evolve. So finally, it will look more as a spiral that is becoming wider and wider as we incorporate new knowledge each period. As I mentioned earlier, this has been a process of trial and error, and we have learned many lessons. I want to share with you 5 key lessons that we have learned in the implementation of the MEL system. The first one, qualitative monitoring has become the cornerstone of our MEL system, particularly in what we have called transformative monitoring. regularly listen to direct beneficiaries of the program has allowed us to make improvements and adjustments during its implementation process, rather than just waiting till the end to make the evaluation. This photo shows a workshop we held last year with programs beneficiaries of legal support, for instance. We employed some participatory methodologies that implied the construction of graphics and charts, as you can see. Activities like this one enable us to gain insights into beneficiaries' feedback about our services and also know about the effects of the program on their services, their lives, I'm sorry. The second lesson learning opportunity. PIDF works with implementing partners, as I said before, including NGOs and community organizations. This presents a unique challenge in MEL work, as these organizations come with different levels of knowledge, expertise, or even different levels of interest about MEL topics. To address this, we focus on building capacities with these organizations. We try to take a decolonial and participatory approach that respects and incorporates their previous knowledge and experiences in the field. This approach has allowed us to grow as a team and develop a robust MEL system, since it promotes involving and ownership. In these photos, you can see our last meeting, our last learning session, where the partners had the opportunity to explain the main challenges they faced in implementing the MEL system the previous quarter, for instance. Our third lesson, combining strategic organization with creative but informed improvisation. Even though we may have a defined MEL system and a MEL plan at the beginning of the program's implementation, even though we have everything organized at the beginning, it's important to remember that changes will occur. Context can vary, and there are things we just cannot control. This is especially true for programs operating in complex and fragile environments, such as humanitarian work, for instance, where we must be open to informed improvisation. What I mean with this is that in the process of MEL systems implementation, there will be times when we may need to change or adapt quickly, for instance, a data collection tool. However, these changes should be based on previous experience, theory, or expertise. Now, to achieve this, we must also continue to improve ourselves as MEL practitioners by, for instance, staying updated with the new methodologies or taking some relevant training sessions. So we ensure that our adaptations are not only swift, but also effective and well-grounded. I can resume this by the challenge that we face to find the correct balance between the always worrying personality of Piglet, the little one there in the image, and the enthusiastic and open to improvisation personality of Tigger. So this is our challenge to find the correct balance. The fourth one. All components of MEL, but essentially the L for learning, need the commitment of all program staff. It's important to remember that without the participation of the entire team, advancing with the MEL system is going to be impossible because it needs the application of new knowledge in practice. Now, obviously, it sounds easier than it is. On the way to this, one thing that we do at PIDF is, for instance, at the beginning of each year of implementation, we define roles within the MEL system that involve all team members to generate involvement and ownership of the system. We also conduct periodic training sessions to foster a culture of MEL within the organization and highlight its importance in the program cycle. Ultimately, even if every year works well independently, the system cannot progress unless all parts work together. We will be just like the image. Nothing is working there. And our final key lesson is like life and work is happier with colleagues. Mel work can feel a bit lonely at sometimes, especially since it's often one person in the project, as Mel officer, for instance, handling with all the data management. However, finding or creating a community of practice, a community for learning and support makes a huge difference. About 3 years ago at PADF, we started the MEL collaborative team, which brings together all our MEL members from across the hemisphere. Here's a photo of us in our last in-person session in Dominican Republic. I'm sorry. The MEL Collaborative is a great space for sharing knowledge, experiences, ideas, and even, and most important, I would say, for sharing our frustrations with data management and MEL systems. That's why I believe that promoting initiatives like this, like the MEL Collaborative, or even panel discussions like this, are essential for our growth as MEL practitioners. And that is it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Carla, for sharing. I have to admit something. I'm someone that comes from a more quantitative background, right? So all my experiences comes more from that type of work, right? So I have to say that every time that someone put as you have done, like the social dimension of evaluation to the forefront, I enjoyed and learned a lot. Right? In all your key lessons, the social piece of it was there. Qualitative method, participation, adaptive management, evaluation adapted to context, community of practices. You really touch all that dimensions, and I think as well, at least for me, it's very, very enlightening every time I hear a presentation like the one you shared with us, Carla, today. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Christian.
Nadine, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Christian. I'm here really to speak up and just how MEL has really helped us to increase our organizational efficiency and our growth. And RISE really is an acronym that stands for Reaching Individuals Through Skills and Education. So we've actually been around for about 35 years. We started in 1989 as Addiction Alert, but then we realized over the years that our programming needed to evolve. And of course, some of the things we would have noted in the field through our evaluation work, our monitoring work, would have also influenced some of the projects that we would have later come up with. Now, throughout this time, RISE has actually been able to establish itself in the CSO sector in Jamaica as one of those entities who actually champion the role of CSOs and the role of data, which is such a critical part of the whole monitoring, evaluation, and learning process that, we're really passionate about it. So in 2022, in terms of the kind of impact we've been having with our projects, we actually delivered 9 projects that reached about 23,000 persons. And then last year, we reached 32,000 persons on average across 13 projects. Now, RISE's vision is really driven by establishing different types of partnership, which is why this opportunity is also wonderful to be here this afternoon, because we do believe in making connections. When you've been around for a while, we see it as our responsibility to share what we have learned. And of course, key to that, it's also embedded even in our strategic plan, is really our role in contributing to the broader recognition of the role of CSOs in terms of how they contribute to national development. And one of the ways that we've been doing it is also by working with the university and the Planning Institute of Jamaica to develop a particular tool, a comprehensive measurement tool that will be able to determine the social return on investment. And of course, for that, it's all going to be based on data, both qualitative and quantitative. And this is another reason why MEL is of particular importance for us at RISE. Now, RISE really focuses on a number of areas. At the core of everything that we do is changing lives for the better. And this has caused us or allowed us the opportunity and the privilege to work in a number of spaces, including community development, gender-based violence, human rights as well, and of course, substance abuse, which is like one of our key programs that we've been championing over the years. So here, you'll have a view of really some of the partners in the union, which I believe up to last year we had, reporting, doing the necessary mail work is really, really critical as well. We've also worked with USAID and a number of large foundations in Jamaica as well. Now, key to what we do is also how we share what we learn through our CSO network. So as a part of the capacity building strengthening that we do, we actually, under one of the EU projects, were charged with starting a CSO network, and we have currently trained about 52 CSOs. This year, we're doing our third implementation of the Civil Society Boost Initiative. And a key part of that as well is also sharing and providing training opportunities to Jamaican CSOs in terms of what they need to do to have effective mail systems in place. So one of the core things though, in terms of when we do our programming, because no CSO really solely does a program just for implementing a project's sake in the communities that we work and within our national borders as well. And of course, also we want to see how that learning can be shared across the region. So this opportunity as well to share with both Latin American and Caribbean persons is also another critical key to that. When we do our reports, when we provide any kind of documentation, brief proposals, what we always try to do is demonstrate how the work we do actually aligns with both the national and international development goals. And so this image that you have, you see here, these goals here on the left are actually Jamaica's national development goals, which is we call our Vision 2030, which are then
I'm afraid we unfortunately lost Nadine. Her connection was breaking up. Give us her a few minutes to come back. But on the meantime, I will give the floor to you, Georgia, so you can start on your presentation, and then we resume with Nadine where she left us. So, Georgia, the floor is yours.
Seems that Nadine is back.
Is she back?
Yes.
Oh,
We
Nadine.
see her. Hopefully we can hear. Seems frozen.
Hello, Nadine. Are you there? Let's give her some minutes to recover the connection.
Sorry, I'm not sure my internet was so stable all along. But yes, oh, it's
Nadine,
because of the extra bandwidth with the camera.
Yeah. Yeah, take the
Yes,
camera off. Good.
yes, I think that might have been it.
Okay, yeah, I think now we are hearing you very well. So, do you want to resume where you left us in the
Sure.
SDGs part? It was
Yes.
very interesting, actually. So, looking forward
Right.
to.
So I'm not sure where I cut off, so I'll just kind of track back. So really, whenever we do our different projects, what we try to do is kind of frame them or contextualize them in terms of both our local or our national and as well as the international development goals. So here on the left, these 4 goals actually speak to Jamaica's national development goal, which we refer to as Vision 2030. And then these are all mapped to the respective sustainable development goals, those international goals. And then on the right, these are actually how these goals then map into government priority areas. And these are particularly selected because this is also where our projects also fall and make an impact in terms of the populations that we serve. And so when we gather this data, we always ensure there is a section in all our reports that speak to this. And even if it is a letter that we're submitting to a private sector donor, we try to frame it in the sense that we've done this project, we've reached 80 persons. When you support our program, you're actually contributing, for example, to goal number 1 of our national development, which is helping Jamaicans to become empowered to achieve their fullest potential. And normally this will work for like our educational based program. And, we get the facts in terms of the human capital index to also appeal to our private sector donors, especially because we know that there is a concern in terms of the productivity levels in Jamaica and the skill set of our workforce. So all this information that we would have gathered on our respective projects, we kind of contextualize them when we're doing our MEL-based reports or funding material and incorporate that as well. Now, the reality of it is we do a lot, but we actually are only a team of 12, and this includes me and our office manager. We actually do not at Rise have an in-house MEL professional. And the only time we can actually call on the expertise of a MEL consultant, for example, is when we have a larger project, such as an EU project, and then we can afford to have such a person. Because the reality is, not just for Rise, but for a number of CSOs in Jamaica and potentially across the Caribbean as well, is that it is quite costly and prohibitive to get a MEL person, especially in-house, and be able to retain them. But despite this, and yet we're still able to deliver all our projects, all our reports on time, effectively as well. And I don't want to say more importantly, but equally as important is the fact that our focus on putting in place the things we would have picked up over the years in terms of good MEL practices has actually helped the organization to improve its organizational efficiency and also increase our growth. Now, when I'm speaking of our MEL's impact on our efficiency, so for example, we have had to develop different forms of templates, both in terms of registers. So for example, we ensure that we have data capturing gender, male, female, we have age, everything that our donor partners will be required so that the data is there and they can break it down as needed. One of the other good things as well, we develop also templates for reports. So you can imagine when you have a team of 10 really to implement 13 projects last year, being able to quickly draw on these templates has been huge. And I'll give you one example. We had an opportunity last year from a new foundation in the space, and they wanted 4 concept notes from each entity. Now, we don't have the number of bodies to do that. So what we did, because of the templates, we could get a team together. Persons could then go to a particular folder on SharePoint, get the information that they need pertaining to a particular project area. Even our Lifeline administrator was one of those persons, because we have this orientation session, before we start these activities. And that is actually the project that won the grant. And so had we not had these things put in place, these templates, these information that we can access quickly, the data extracted from all our midterm reports and final reports, then this would have been a very difficult thing for us to do. There are opportunities that we would have missed out on. The other thing as well is really now, we're always busy. We always have projects doing, but nonetheless, what we recognize now is that, it's not just writing the report and it's done. We also now force ourselves, we place it on our calendars to make sure we have those team meetings to go over the lessons that we've learned and actually to put some of those things into practice. So that has also been very instrumental for us. And of course, you know, RISE has been able to attract quite a bit of funding. And because of that and our reputation of delivering excellent projects on time, on within budget, we have been asked in several instances to serve as a mentor agency to youth-led organizations, for example, or very new CSOs in the space. So when we have these templates, for example, this helps us to really better deliver on our role as a mentor agency to these younger CSOs. And one of the important things as well, because for example, under our EU grants, which EU grants are very difficult for most local CSOs to win, simply because also of well, it's very demanding and rigorous. And then there is that component of the applicant's contribution, which is cash, and many CSOs can't come up with that cash component. And so we provide third-party grant under every single EU project that we get. And this has been useful. So for example, we have been able to share templates to help our grantees actually manage even their funding spend, so that when we are reporting to the EU, you know, there is nothing where someone didn't spend enough to then negatively impact our reporting and then run the risk of having to give back money. So for example, your fund utilization rate is something that we track very closely. But again, it is these kind of checklists and templates that really help us to fulfill this responsibility to the other CSOs that we serve. The other way in which MEL has helped RISE is really how it has helped us to grow. So for example, it has helped us to replicate projects. And when I'm speaking specifically here in terms of, you know, when we do our reports, we are able to show the successes that we've had. Of course, we're quite transparent in terms of the challenges, but then we have been able, for example, to develop a model for an after-school program. And because the gains were so significant, and I will just briefly say here, in 1 year, for example, we had kids who were non-readers, about 24 of them. And through the model, which included stuff like neurodiversity assessment, we were able to introduce now more specific strategies. We actually trained the teachers. And by the end of the first year, a number of those students were now improved by at least 2 grade levels. And so because we could demonstrate that level of success with the program, we were able to establish this model as a best practice model. And now we have about 6 additional sites where we will be delivering this kind of after-school program across Jamaica. So, you know, unless we had been collecting that kind of data and would have been able to demonstrate the capacity to deliver these kind of significant changes, especially for the younger population and their literacy and numeracy skills, then we would not have been in such a good position to have been given the opportunity through our donors to replicate these projects. And of course, I would have already kind of mentioned the example in terms of how it has helped us to secure new grants. But the one thing I want to point out, especially here, is also in terms of how it helps us to secure additional funding. So for example, this year, and I'm hoping we'll have a little time, I can actually show you some of what we use. This year, for May alone, we actually brought in 68% of a project funding budget. So the previous year, in terms of the donor for that project, we would have gotten a certain amount, but then we changed up how we kind of drafted or prepared our marketing material or donation request letters, or what we call them now is actually, when we approach private sector companies, we call it a social and economic exchange or an impact partnership, because we're also trying to, based on the strength of these results, also try to change the perception of the private sector when they're engaging with NGOs such as RISE. So we're not simply coming to you for a donation, because the data, based on our work in MEL, based on the stats that we collect using both quantitative and qualitative methods, have proven that there are real tangible benefits to be derived from investing in a project being run by RISE. So how do you derive benefits from L, especially if you're an NGO that does not have an in-house MEL person? So first of all, one of the most important things is that you have to actually foster and then institutionalize a MEL culture. So we don't have a dedicated person, but everybody at RISE is excited about MEL. We were at a training session just the last 2 weeks, actually run by Georgia, who you'll hear from shortly. And we were busy chatting away, being very disruptive, because some of the things that we were learning, we were so anxious and excited at the opportunity to go back to the office and see how we could incorporate them into our work. The next thing too, as I mentioned, the training, there are so many organizations now, donor agencies as well, who, because of the importance of MEL, are making training opportunities available both in person and online. And having this option is particularly important, especially for organizations that are short-staffed and really want to take advantage of this learning opportunity. Having this chance to learn online at your own pace really makes a difference, so that persons can acquire the new knowledge, new MEL knowledge to apply in the field. And of course, one of the things, the final thing, is actually just share your MEL journey with other entities. A lot of the data that we have, for example, that we incorporate in some of our marketing or promotional material actually comes from research that would have been done by other partners as well. And so when we use this, we make sure we state the source. And so we are getting stats, for example, to support what we have seen in the field, but would not have had the resources to actually carry out the research to verify. So that is done by another partner. And then we're able to utilize their data in our material. And then they also get the recognition for the work that they would have done. And of course, opportunities such as this where you can share, because you never know what may happen, what other partnerships can come up, where we can work together, do some serious work in terms of the data evidence to make a difference in the communities that we serve, and of course, our respective countries and territory. So I have a thank you here, but if I can quickly just add,
Nadine,
yes.
I think we are good on time,
Okay.
but we can make some follow up during the questions round. Is that
That's
okay?
fine. Thank you so much,
Perfect.
Christian. Thank you.
Though I want to emphasize what I really enjoyed from your presentation is that you brought us a larger picture of where NGOs operate, right? You really illustrated an ecosystem, right? You started with highlighting the RISE connection with the Jamaican state, with donors, with your contribution to national policies and SDGs. Then you also said something about your role as a mentor and the importance of guaranteeing funding and MEL as a key driver of new funding, right? So I think that's the reality of NGOs all over Latin America, right? They are constrained by resources, they are part of a larger ecosystem, they serve governments, other stakeholders, So I think there's so many takeaways from your presentation. So I really appreciate it very much. And now, being said that, I give the floor to Georgia for her presentation. Georgia, are you with us? Yes, it's coming. Yes, perfect.
Are you hearing me?
We hear you very well.
Wonderful. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm just going to be following up on what Nadine just spoke about as it relates to NGOs and what it is that you guys have been doing and the challenges some of us have been facing as it relates to monitoring, evaluation, and learning. So for those of us who might have joined us late, my name is Georgia Crawford Williams, and I'm a capacity building expert and a consultant sociologist based in Jamaica. And today I want to speak about AI-driven MEL, modernizing monitoring, evaluation, and learning, which is a passion of mine. Now, last year, I had the opportunity to be a part of a USAID project, which was aimed at improving the MEL capacity of NGOs in the Caribbean Basin. Now, we went ahead and we did an organizational assessment of the NGOs. We did a capacity gap assessment, a MEL capacity gap assessment of about 22 of the selected organizations after the organizational assessment. And what we found was that, these organizations were good organizations. They were hard workers. They were having good results. You could hear it from the lips of their beneficiaries. When you took a look at, the communities that they had spent time in for a while, you could see the real change. However, as it relates to monitoring, evaluation, and learning, it was woefully inadequate. When we spoke about, structured implementation of MEL and MEL being just a part of the work that they did and the projects that they did, we found that they weren't doing as much as they ought. There are some organizations that really wasn't doing anything at all. And when we took a look at the bigger picture, we found that there were many challenges that were being faced by the NGOs in the Caribbean, which actually acted as barriers to monitoring, evaluation, and learning in their organizations. So we found that many of them were understaffed. We're talking about NGOs that had 2 or 3 full-time employees only. Yeah, we found that many lacked resources, financial resources, human resources, just sometimes the space resources. We found that they had limited technical skills as it related to monitoring, evaluation, and learning. Nadine made mention of the fact that they had no male practitioner, and she's one of the bigger organizations, as it relates to NGOs in Jamaica. So we found that there were certain barriers that really did not lend itself to proper implementation of MEL. And that when these organizations went out, their aim really was to implement their projects, was to create the change that they wanted to see and knew that they could do. But monitoring, evaluation, and learning many times was not seen as a major part of it, or could not be a major part of it. As a consequence, when we undertook the project, my team and I, we started thinking about how can we actually change the game? How is it that we can make it easier for these organizations with the limited resources that they have and all the challenges that they face? How can we change their culture so that monitoring, evaluation, and learning becomes an automatic part of what it is that they do? These organizations with 2 persons that change staff very regularly. And so if it is that you train one staff member, you find that 6 months later, there's a brand new staff member who had never been exposed. What do you do? And we came up with the solution of AI-driven MEL. We decided that we would take full advantage of artificial intelligence and what it is that it has to offer. Now, artificial intelligence, according to Techopedia, is a branch of computer science that uses computational models to perform tasks previously required human intelligence. But for us, what it was a means through which we could demystify and simplify MEL. We had found that it presented us with an opportunity where we could actually say, hey, here is an easier way to get things done. Or this is how we can provide you with a foundation on which you can start. And so it doesn't seem as if you're looking in a deep, dark, black hole when it is that you're asked, to start looking at monitoring, evaluation, and learning. And the term deep, dark, black hole is actually a term that we took from an entity when we asked them to really describe their experience with MEL. And they said it was like looking in a deep, dark, black hole. We didn't want that. We wanted to change that experience. And so we developed our own MEL tool. We developed what we call the MEL plan generator. And it was an AI tool that generated for our entities monitoring, evaluation, and learning plans for their intervention programs. Now, this particular AI tool would actually take tailored information. So it would ask you to give it them information about what it is that you are trying to do. And based on that information, it would use AI to actually help you to create your monitoring and evaluation plan. It will help you to develop your theory of change. It will assist you with an objective setting, etc. And all it needed was the ability to click a button to say, okay, fine, this is what we are trying to do. Now, as we went along and we started, thinking about what it is that we wanted, we decided that we needed something where it was not only easy to use, but they would also give you suggestions when it is that you found yourself at a loss and you did not have a consultant that you could call or someone right next to you who is a MEL specialist where do you turn? So we wanted this particular MEL tool to assist in that manner, that even if you don't know the answer, it can point you in the right direction. And at the end of the day, we created a tool that in 15 minutes, 20 minutes, we found that our NGOs were able to actually create their own theory of change. They were able to actually move forward and start looking at the monitoring plan. They were able to look at, what are going to be a part of my results evaluation. So some key things we started to look at, and we found that there was increased competency, or at least the ability to do certain things. So complex goal setting, focus area prioritization, target population definition and objective setting, activity planning, outcome and output definition, all of these things. We were able to assist them not only with the understanding, but with the ability to create these things for their own project, because we allowed them a foundation. Not only did the app give them the definition and the purpose, but it also said to them, this is what it would look like for your organization. Now, I want to stop for a moment, because I don't want us to believe that when we speak about, AI-driven MEL, that we are only speaking about this particular app that we have developed. If it is that we should look, for instance, at Excel, yeah? And Microsoft Excel is used by almost everyone as it relates to data analysis. Every entity, individual, that when we speak about data analysis, Microsoft Excel is almost automatic. Yeah? But if it is that you are going to do well at Excel, then you need to understand formulas and functions and pivot tables and linked data. And it can be a mammoth task. But Excel has now launched its own co-pilot. And in doing so, let me go back a minute to Excel here. Let's look at what Excel now is doing. Having launched its own AI assistant, using the same Microsoft Excel that you now have at home, you simply go to Analyze Data. And once you do that, Excel will analyze your data set for you. All you need to do is ask them a specific question. If you look at the video that is being played here, all they did was to say, hey, I want a chart. Show me how many units are sold per day. And it is automatic. That Excel will actually look at your data and do the calculations. And of course, it doesn't stop there. You can move from that and you can ask for the information for months. You can ask for different types of charts, as it has done. Yeah. So we have line charts there. You can also ask for bar graphs, but most importantly, and I think this for me is key, you can ask Excel with their AI copilot, are there any trends? Are there any insights? Is there anything that I need to take away from this data that I might not have seen readily by looking at it? That I might need now to use a particular function or a particular calculation to get? Talk to me about my data. Tell me the story that is happening here. And Excel, using its AI copilot, can give that information. So the point I'm making, while it is that I started here with the artificial intelligence app that we created for our project, seeing that without even creating your own app or looking at apps that have been created for MEL, there are other tools that we can use that for NGOs, so that they, with their limited resources and their limited time, can still be the best versions of themselves as it relates to monitoring, evaluation, and learning. Yeah. Let's talk again about visualizing data. Canva, about 2 weeks ago, had a huge symposium where they launched all their AI tools. And when Canva spoke about their AI tools, they started talking about infographics and how it is that you can create information for your different stakeholders. And that's a big thing that we found lacking as it relates to our NGOs. The ability to use your information to create the story that was necessary. Yeah. And not only create the story, but create the story for the different stakeholders. Because what we need to say to our beneficiaries or what we need to show to our beneficiaries is different from what we need to show to our donors. And it's different from what we need to show to the government. And it's different as it relates to, what we're speaking to, as it relates to our implementers in monitoring information. Now, what we found with Canva, using infographics, using even simply summary reports. They actually have templates for that AI can say, hey, upload your data. And that's what happens. You can upload your own data, and then they will use that data to create the infographic, to create for you that letter that you need to send out with your progress each month. To create for you your summary report, and you have the ability not only to see it, but most importantly, to tweak it, to change accordingly, because the AI is not there to work for you, it is there to assist you. But when we have organizations that are so small that the task looks daunting, when it is that you have a base foundation on which you can start, then it becomes so much easier to get the work that you need to get done. And if you look at the video that I have on my screen, it is simply showing you all the different things that Canva can do in less than a minute. These, I believe, are imperative if we are going to demystify, if we are going to simplify monitoring, evaluation, and learning, if we're going to find ways to spin the stories that have impact, that can help us to get the sort of grants or to actually prompt the actions that will create the change that we want to see. Now, I have spoken about two. There are many others that I could have mentioned. ChatGPT, for instance, if it is that you're doing qualitative analysis, can help with content analysis. ChatGPT allows you to upload, for instance, the transcripts from a focus group discussion, and then they will actually identify themes, and they will actually create for you codes that you can use as your starting point. Delve, Tableau, Kobo tool, these are all others that can assist you, and the list goes on. However, it would be remiss of me to stand here today advocating for AI in MEL without talking about the drawbacks. As in any new technology, and as I dare say with anything at all, once it is that you are going to begin, you have to look at what are the challenges, what are the drawbacks, And of course, persons have asked the questions about, data privacy concerns, especially us, we're dealing in this particular social space that might be important, the risk of sensitive data exposure and breaches. We're talking about bias as well. AI might actually perpetuate or amplify existing biases in your data. Then, of course, the dependency on data quality. In Jamaica, we say rubbish in, rubbish out. Now, AI, you find that its effectiveness is limited by the quality and completeness of the data that you have put in. Additionally, there's a lack of human insight. AI might miss nuanced understanding that humans might understand automatically from seeing it based on our experiences and our lives from actually going there. And so there are things that, AI might say to you that automatically as an individual, that it can't be correct. So these are challenges. There are, of course, ethical concerns about transparency and accountability in decision making. And of course, there's a learning curve. AI is pretty new. Most of the individuals might have never interacted with them in a complete manner in any of these tools. And so it will require some time and effort to use the tools, right? And I dare say far less effort than you imagine. But for every drawback, for every challenge, there is a solution. And as NGOs, we know that. Our NGOs have always been climbing mountains that no one thought could ever be conquered. So if there are solutions to the drawbacks of using AI, we have to look at them. So do we implement robust data security measures and protocols to assist with data privacy concerns? Do we review and to ensure that the biases are mitigated against. Yeah, as it relates to dependence on data quality, it is about ensuring that the data quality at inception is correct. And so the point I'm making, and I don't want to take a lot of time here because I want to get to the questions, yeah, is that we are at a point right now that we can make the decisions as to how AI can be used to assist NGOs in the Caribbean and Latin America, and I dare say the world. It is up to us to create the structure, to create the framework so that we maximize the benefits and mitigate against all of the negative consequences that can come with it. The time, I am saying to us here as male practitioners, is now. The future is now. We need to get together and ensure that we harness AI-driven male so that our NGOs can have the power to do what they do best, and that is about changing lives. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Georgia Crawford. Thank you.
Georgia, Pauline in the chat tells us that it's so encouraging to listening to you and you bring hope to NGOs. I think we all agree about how energetic and inspiring your presentation has been and how you are really taking seriously this about pushing forward, creating a culture of evaluation and expanding evaluation for everyone. And of course, the role of technology plays in it. Thank you very much for sharing this very insightful presentation. So we are moving now to the second part of our panel today, our discussion. I will go in the same order as the presentation has been. So I will start again with Silvana, right? So Silvana, one of the organizations face different trade-offs in terms of organization of their mail function, right? You mentioned that you opted for some in-house organization, some others opted for something that's more outsourced, right? So can you reflect a little bit of the challenges that the foundation faced when they started practicing mail, how they overcome it, and how they decide to the organizational function that you arrived as the present?
Yes, thank you, Christian, and congratulations to Carla, Nadine, Georgia. Wonderful presentations. So yeah, I mean, the foundation faced many challenges. Well, as Nadine mentioned, like having an in-house team is expensive, and since we are a family foundation, the minute the family decided to measure the impact of their social investment, one of the decisions, among others, was to create this evaluation team within the foundation. And this pushed for a bigger change, you know, like a cultural transformation within the staff. They were much more exposed to us, you know, like to having someone inside looking at them. And so I guess that there was a challenge, and it required a change in the profile of workers, you know, like within the evaluation team and the staff itself, you know, like you have to have this openness to change, to knowledge, this willingness to show what you're doing. And in terms of the team, you know, the evaluators, you need to be able to have the capacity to lead the high standard evaluation, but also, and this is very important, and I'm glad that Nadine also mentioned it, like to be able to foster this evaluation culture, you know, and to, I don't know, like wipe out this sometimes like punitive or punishment that has like this feature, you know, like to really engage your stakeholders, people inside the foundation, to say, you know, this is important. We want to do good to people, and in order to guarantee that we're doing it, we need to have this data, these processes. We don't want to hurt our beneficiaries, you know. So I think that has this, I mean, the trade-off, I would say, okay, so having an in-house team has an upside that you can minimize the cost of induction when you need someone to be on a program like very fast. Like there's people that already know all the the issues and the, I don't know, like the small print of the programs that the foundation is implementing. And also you are much quicker to give the feedback for the decision-making process, but you also have some risks as well, like you are too close to the program you're evaluating. So you need to take some measures to minimize those risks, you know, like for example, in our team, and I'm glad that also Carla mentioned like teamwork and to share with colleagues is the best, because we always assume an evaluation in teams, and at least two persons are seeing one program. So we try to minimize our possible biases that we might have. But I would say that in general, I'm sorry that if I was too dispersed in talking.
No, it was great, Silvana. Thank you for your thoughts. I'm moving to Carla now. Let's keep in the environment and culture type of thoughts, right? But Carla, on your question, I would probably want to focus more on the work environment and the organizational culture. In your case, for the Pan American Foundation, has the organizational culture, the work environment, facilitated or has hindered the effective use of MEL approaches, right? And I loved your metaphor about the spiral, right? This dynamic, right? Has these dynamics changed over time? MEL has been easier over time, or it has become harder over time for you?
Well, about the first question, in Peru we started the implementation. I mean, PIDF started operations since 2020, and since that time, I am there. I am working there. So we have the opportunity to create the MEL system since the beginning, since zero. So that was an opportunity for us because we could be really creative in the implementation or in the design of the MEL system. As I said before, it was a process of course, trial and errors. And now the system that we have, it is working good, it is working well, but I know that sometimes we need to make some changes. But I was fortunate enough to have a good environment for MEL, for the implementation of the MEL system. But what I believe it is a change for the region, as Georgia was saying, is that, and as I said also in my presentation, is that we have in the region so many organizations that can have different levels of knowledge or expertise in MEL topics, or even interest, as I said, in MEL topics. So it is a challenge. It has been a challenge, particularly in my case. It has been a challenge, but I had also the opportunity to work and to start from zero. And yeah. And also about the spiral, as you were saying, so it has changed a lot. It wasn't smooth, you know, it is not like smooth as we would like to. We always face new challenges, and it is particularly difficult for us because we work in humanitarian work. So humanitarian work has its own particularities, its own characteristics, and we are there. We are there to keep fighting with the challenges and changing and adaptation. I would say it is our key.
It is a bumpy journey, right? As many of journeys in our countries, in our beloved region, isn't it?
Yes.
It's never linear. So great. Thank
No.
you for sharing your thoughts, Carla. So I'm moving now to Nadine and more in the evaluation capacity development probably field, right? So Nadine, I will be as you picture this how risk is in an ecosystem, in a larger ecosystem. Probably I will be interested to know what resources and training have proven most effective and have been available for risk in terms of building their own MEL capacity, right? And you mentioned that there was something important in your strategy because you were outsourcing most of it, right? And has been this training or resources provided by the Jamaican state, by other partner, international, local? how do you manage to financially sustain the MEL function at the end of the day, given that you are resource constrained in Greece, right? Please, food for your thoughts.
Sure, thank you. Well, fortunately for us now in Jamaica, there really is a huge wave and a huge push amongst our donor partners to strengthen the capacity of civil society or NGOs in terms of MEL. And so there really are a number of capacity building opportunities in MEL available now. Even, for example, through our umbrella agency for civil society groups, the Council for Voluntary and Social Sector, they would have recently gotten funding to deliver a series of MEL training. Organizations, for example, such as JAMEL, through which Georgia is also doing a consultancy, providing capacity strengthening for NGOs in MEL, would also provide additional training opportunities, such as in the virtual space and in person. And why the in-person sessions are particularly important is you now have an opportunity to practice and to utilize some of these tools that we're being exposed to. And you have the benefit of having the guidance of these expert facilitators, expert MEL practitioners in the space. And so sometimes, what we found is it's difficult if you're dealing with an NGO that is strapped for time, that doesn't have an in-house person. You go to a workshop and all they do is present and give you handouts, and then you're to go back and try and pull this apart and find what works for you. That is not the case, that we're seeing now. There really is a lot more consideration in the space in terms of our time constraints. So we have the hybrid modalities, if you can't come in person, take advantage of it online. And more importantly, it is the focus on making sure that we walk away with proven learning. So, it's also, we're there to hold your hand, walk you through the tools, even some of the tools that Georgia would have mentioned, and the new AI capacities or capabilities. We would have recently through RISE, we had about 3 persons representing RISE in that particular training. And this actually excites you. So even in terms of when we go back to our organizations, it's now a competition in terms of who are we going to allow to go to the next set of sessions, because everybody wants an opportunity to participate and to learn. And the fact is, we don't have everybody within RISE is responsible for MEL, but they really do look forward to doing it. We have to make it manageable so these tools are useful.
Seems you have created a really culture open, an organization open to innovation. I think that's fantastic. The word innovation, it's brought also by Dr. Marcia Brandon in the comments, right? And it's very connected to my question to Georgia, of course, right? So innovation, Georgia, but also the learning curve concept that you express in one of your final slides, right? It's not that easy for everyone to just jump on board, right? So do you think the use of these emerging trends or technology, artificial intelligence for evaluation, MEL, is something that small NGOs can achieve, or there might still be a barrier there? And what, in thinking about barrier obstacles, what are the ones that you have experienced in introducing artificial intelligence as a tool for MEL in NGOs, especially small ones?
Okay, so we had the opportunity to actually do our capacity building program with mainly small NGOs. And, the question is one that is very good, because there are challenges and barriers, but as it relates to the learning curve, and that's one of the things that I like most about how we were able to do our capacity building. We do competency-based teaching and learning. And so once you get an opportunity to get into our workshop, you have to leave showing us what it is that you are able to do. And, as a consequence, I say to my participants that I don't set a fixed agenda. And I don't set a fixed agenda because I need to be able to be flexible, to change. And so if it is that I'm seeing that my small NGOs aren't doing what it is that they need to do so that they can leave and actually have some impact on their organizations, then we're not going to move to the next thing on the agenda, because it is not about getting to the end of the day and doing all the things that we had said that we wanted to do. It is about actually leaving with the sort of skills that can actually change your organization and change the way you work. Now, we have been very fortunate. Our entities are very, very enthusiastic. And I will say to you as well, that AI is designed to be very intuitive. And as a consequence of that, it is easier to learn to use AI tools than other tools because you simply speak to it in a manner that you would normally speak. You ask the questions that you want answered, and then you actually do what it is that you believe ought to be done. For the tools that we would have developed, we would have done it based on our MEL experience. And as a consequence of that, we would have predicted what it is that our MEL practitioners or NGOs would need and would have answered those questions. So that is that the MEL plan is a little bit more tailored. But even the other tools that exist, some of them which are free, if it is that you speak directly to it about what it is that you need, then chances are it will give you a response that you can start with. The most important part of it is to learn how to create a prompt. And so for us, that is the next step to ensure that persons can maximize the benefits that AI has to offer.
I am delighted by this conversation. I think it has been so great to hear all your voices, all your experience. I have always been convinced that NGOs have a massive role to play in MEL, but after this webinar, I am even more convinced than I was before, right? I believe NGOs can innovate, also can manage resources efficiently, and they can push the frontiers of MEL and expanding the reach for MEL for more organizations, right? And we have been a witness of this in this talk, right? Luxi foundations like bringing all this perspective about thinking about cycles of evaluation, like the Pan American Foundation really bringing forward this social aspect of evaluation. Then RISE as well, thinking and let us know think how MEL can be a driver for more resources and not an expenditure that's not necessary, right? So being seen as an opportunity, and of course Georgia with all the role that artificial intelligence has to play and the tools are becoming available for even small NGOs to be part of these efforts, right? So thank you very, very much for this conversation. I think it has been a great event. And the last activity that I have for all is having a picture all together to commemorate this great activity between ClearLac and the CEI. So please, if you help us turning on your cameras, our comms team will take us a picture very soon. Paula, you let us know when do we have to smile and say CEI.
Okay, 1, 2, and 3. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for all the panelists. Thank you for all the audience. Thank you for the energy. Thank you for just being part of gLocal. It's amazing to have you here, and we will see you all very soon, hopefully.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey, bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Great, Valerie.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Fantastic.
Well,
This was amazing.
awesome. Very
It was awesome. Really, really.